Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. As we get started, find that control panel with that orange box with the white arrow. Drop in there where you're joining us from today. So today I'm coming to you from Oklahoma, middle of the country. So excited y'all decided to join us. We have about 2 minutes and we'll get started. But in the meantime, share with us where you're joining us from. Looks like Kyle's joining us from Colorado. Awesome. I'll be there next month, Kyle, or the end of this month, rather. Lori from Connecticut, hello. Jennifer from Connecticut. Ronald from Hawaii. Maria, Pennsylvania. Phil from Connecticut, good to see you again. We seem to have lots of East Coast folks with us today. Scott, North Carolina, welcome. Stephen from Ohio, welcome. So glad you're here. Anna from Illinois, David from New York, Sherry from North Carolina, Vincent from Connecticut. So glad you all are joining us. Like I said, find that control panel. We have about 1 more minute till we get started. Click on that orange box with that white arrow and type in that question box where you're joining us from today. As you can see, we have people from all over the country. Stephen from sunny South Carolina. That is great. Thanks for joining us the day after Labor Day. Joseph from Massachusetts. Bradley from Michigan. John from Massachusetts as well, it looks like. So glad y'all are here. So excited to talk about feedback with you today. About 1 more minute, we'll get started. Like I said, we have quite a few people jumping on right now. So if you're just joining us, please type in that question box where you're joining us from today. Like I said, I'm joining from Oklahoma. Julie is from Michigan. John is joining us from Utah. It looks, there we go. I have teammates on the backside of this call joining us from all over the US too. Everywhere from Illinois to I think Maine, Ohio, just all over the place. So thanks for joining us today. John from New York, welcome. John from Massachusetts, welcome. So glad you're here. All right, y'all, with that, it looks like it's time to get started. So my name is Mandy Green. I'm a content specialist with Goodheart-Willcox. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. So welcome to Improving Instruction Through Effective Feedback. This session is normally a 1.5 to 3 hour professional development session that I have taken and really condensed it for 30 minutes today. So if you want more details, at the end, there will be a link to our G-W PD page to get more information about this as a full professional development. But hang on, it's going to be a fast and furious 30 minutes talking all things feedback. So first, you know I love your information and your insight. What is feedback? So you're going to scan that QR code using the camera app on your phone, or there will be a link in the chat that you can click on. It will take you to a tool called Mentimeter. On that tool, you're just going to type in your definition. What is feedback? Share with us your definition using the link in the chat or by scanning that QR code. I'll give you about 30 more seconds to scan that QR code or click on that link. This is the EdTech tool Mentimeter. And like always, check with your IT department to make sure it's open for student use and you can use it on your network before jumping into it. So let's see what some of your definitions of feedback are today. So when we open up Mentimeter, let's see what we have. When it buffers like this is when my students would be like, wait for it, Miss Green, wait for it. All right, so some definitions that we have today. A short assessment of how you're doing, advice on how to do something better, information given after answer or demo, yes. Providing positive reinforcement, constructive criticism, yes. Telling a student how they did, points to help them do better. Communicating constructive information, a system to collect information for improvement, a response from students of your content, there's another way to look at it. Constructive comments, reinforcing comprehension of your ideas, responses from students in various forms, deeper instruction on submitted work, So you can see that there are some different definitions here, and you're probably noticing some words that are starting to stand out. So information, comments, constructive feedback, from students to teacher, from teacher to students. So we're going to take some of those main ideas that we're seeing on this page, and we're going to start to develop our idea and understanding or definition of what feedback is. And we're going to jump into it a little bit more. So like I said, my name is Mandy Green, content specialist with Goodheart-Willcox. I've been a classroom teacher, high school counselor, worked at the district level in CTE and instructional technology. I'm super excited to talk about feedback. Like I said, this is going to be kind of fast and furious, but if you want more information, there will be a link at the end. If you want more information on this as a total PD session. So let's start with the research. So if you've been here, been around, you know I love some good research. So today I pulled some stuff from John Hattie. He has all the research on those influences of on education. So you know the average effect size is 0.4, meaning any effect size on any educational influence is 0.4. The effect size of providing feedback is 0.7. So that's almost twice the average effect size. When we think about feedback, we can think about giving. It's not always receiving. You know, sometimes teachers may claim that they give a lot of feedback, but a more appropriate measure might be the nature of the feedback received. The culture of the students can also influence the feedback effects. Feedback is not only differentially given, but also differentially received, right? So discomfort is sometimes also more powerful than confirmation. So when feedback is provided, sometimes there's that discomfort, and that can lead to greater change. We also know that there are errors that need to be welcomed in this process of feedback. Exposure to errors, like in a safe, constructive environment, can lead to higher performance. We know that the power of peers. So interventions that aim to foster correct peer feedback is also needed. So we're going to not just talk about feedback from instructor to student, but also student to instructor and peer-to-peer feedback. We also know that feedback can be a form of assessment. And we know that there are many strategies that we use to really maximize feedback. So we're going to jump into some research and kind of see where you're at, because we all bring a lot of knowledge and experience to this webinar today, since we all have professional educators. So let's jump in and kind of look at some of the different ways. So think to yourself, why should I use feedback in my classroom? Okay, so once you have some ideas that are being formulated in your mind, scan that QR code once again. There will be a link in the chat box in just a moment. And you're going to answer the first two columns. So once you access that link or that QR code, you will see that it is a Padlet, and there will be 3 columns. We're only going to do columns 1, well, 3 and 2 technically, the first 2 columns. So the first column is going to ask you to list 3 reasons why we should use feedback in the classroom. The second column is going to ask you to kind of reflect that. What are 2 reasons somebody might not want to use feedback in the classroom? Let's jump into our Padlet and kind of let's see what some responses are looking like. So once you jump into that Padlet using the link in the chat, you'll notice list 3 reasons we should use feedback in the classroom. You know, I always use feedback thinking it was kind of like a formative assessment, maybe an informal formative assessment, right? So just something quick back, some feedback from my students, like nods, thumbs up, maybe write something on the Post-it notes. And then think about someone who might not use feedback. You know, when I first started doing a lot of presentations about 15 years ago, I was afraid to ask for feedback or evaluation at the end. But we grow so much for that. And there's also times where we have missed opportunities, and it's great to get the audience or participants' feedback on those missed opportunities so that we can make sure and cover them the next time. So right now, we're just going to do list 3 reasons we should use feedback and list 2 reasons someone might not. Leave this column blank for right now. We'll come back to it. So 3 reasons we should use feedback: to gauge understanding. Absolutely. Reinforcing a student's correct understanding of a topic, correcting a misunderstanding, promoting further independent thinking. Yes. To make students aware of their progress. Absolutely. To keep students engaged, feeling connected, adjust pacing, absolutely. A better understanding, positive reinforcement. So students know you're listening, right? So providing that feedback, nonverbal, verbal feedback. To see if students are picking up on what you're teaching. Yes, absolutely. Positive reinforcement, relationship building. Yes, y'all are right on the track. See all the great knowledge and experience y'all bring to the webinar? All right, give students an idea of where their grades are. Yes, how to improve. Yes, clarify questions by students, inform learning, improve learned content, help recognize. Yes, y'all are on the right track. Now, 2 reasons someone might not want to use feedback. Time. Yes. Evaluation. Introversion, apprehension. Exactly. Not enough time. Time seems to be a common one that comes up when I do this as a professional development session as well. Privacy, stepping on students' intent. Fear of seeming too harsh. Fear of receiving criticism. Yes. Not enough time. There's that time. Don't want to go out of the comfort zone. Exactly. Worried about how their teaching is being perceived by students. Yes. Don't want to discourage students who are not understanding, right? We want to keep them engaged and excited about learning, and sometimes certain types of feedback might not provide that. Difficult to provide everyone with detailed feedback in a timely manner. Yes, that is probably one of the biggest things in education. It's providing that personalized, detailed, timely feedback for all of the students, especially when you have 200 students in a day. Don't want to be discouraged if they're doing their best, right? And discouraging students, time limitations. So y'all are picking up on a few themes, right? So we're all looking at the 3 reasons we should provide feedback: to help students give an understanding of where they're at, help them improve, help them stay engaged, seem to be some big ones. 2 reasons that someone might not provide feedback, that time one, and then also kind of apprehension, concern about it. All right, so we're gonna leave this Padlet. We did columns 3 and 2. We're gonna save this one for last. We'll come back to it, don't worry. We're gonna keep going. So y'all know I'm not always a big talker, but I'm gonna talk a little bit more in this webinar than I do in most. So let's talk about some of the feedback. There are 7 essentials of feedback. So they're listed on the screen. I'm not gonna read them all to you, but I'm gonna talk through some of the ideas that go along with them. So we know that effective feedback requires that a person has a goal and they take action to achieve a goal, or they receive some type of goal-related information about their actions, right? So there's something with a goal reference. We also know that any useful feedback system involves not only a clear goal, but also some tangible results that can be related to the goal. In addition to feedback, from coaches or other observers, video and audio recordings can also help us perceive things that we might not perceive when we perform. I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever had one of your lessons recorded and then had to watch it back with an instructional coach or a peer, it can be a little intimidating because first of all, you're thinking, that's not what my voice sounds like, but it's okay, no one's judging you. But you notice your little nuances and little quirks that you have and catchphrases that you have as well. So it can be extremely helpful just to record yourself and watch it back by yourself before you maybe watch it with someone else. But yeah, video and recordings help us really make provides good feedback for us. We also know that effective feedback needs to be concrete, specific, and useful, right? Has to provide some sort of actionable information with it. On the flip side, too much feedback can be counterproductive. You know, it's better to help the performer concentrate on one or two kind of key elements rather than a buzz about everything. Also, as we all know as great educators, in most cases, the sooner you can get the feedback, the better. You don't want to have to wait days or months to receive feedback on some type of learning. And remembering that the feedback doesn't always have to come from instructor or teacher to student. It can come student to teacher, it can come peer to peer. And thinking about one of the reasons someone might not want to provide feedback due to time constraints, maybe we need to think about how technology can be one of our powerful tools that can help us provide more timely feedback and also provide more opportunities to use that. Also, adjusting our performance really depends on not only receiving the feedback, but then having those opportunities to use it. It's kind of like an formative assessment, a performance task, etc. So that is the premise of these 7 essential feedbacks. And as you know, this comes from some research. I linked an article from ASCD, so that will be linked in here for you at the very end so that you can read about these 7 essentials more in depth if you would like. But we're going to kind of take our base level understanding and knowledge of the 7 essentials, and we're going to kind of think about them in terms of using them in our classroom. So these are the 7 types of feedback essentials. So you're going to scan that QR code, or there will be a link in that chat box that is going to take you to a thing called Poll Everywhere. So we kind of defined feedback generally. We kind of then thought, like, why should we use it in our classrooms? What might prohibit someone from using it? And now we're going to take these 7 essentials and we're going to kind of rank them. So you're going to rank the 7 essentials based on the types that you currently use in the classroom. So I'll show you how that's going to happen. So you can scan that QR code or click on the link. And when you do that, you'll notice it takes you to a Poll Everywhere site. Once again, I'm using the free version. And it's going to allow us, so I'll show you what it looks like on the site. These are the 7 essentials listed here. To move them, to rank them from top to bottom for your ranking, if I think goal reference needs to be number 4, I'm going to click on goal reference and move the arrow until it's in the 4th position. If I think ongoing is the most important, I'm going to click on ongoing and move it up to the top. And then once you have them in the order from top, the one that you use the most to the one you use the least, click on submit responses. And we'll take a look to see what they look like once everyone has input their ideas. So I'm going to jump over to the actual feedback site. So this is our actual results that we're seeing, and you'll see that it's going to move in real time as more results come in. So which type of feedback do you use the most in your classroom right now? So it looks like consistent feedback. Timely just took over the first place. Those 2 seem to be at the top. Ongoing, goal referenced, user-friendly, tangible and transparent, and actionable. So you can see we have some more going on. You see that those top 3 seem to be staying numbers 1, 2, and 3 consistently. So once you have that completed, in that question box, if you would like to share with us how you provide timely feedback in your classroom. How do you provide timely feedback? Because we know from research how important it is to provide that timely research so students don't have to wait hours, days, maybe a month to get that feedback. How do you provide timely research? Do you use technology? Do you use some other form? Is it verbal? Is it written? What works best for you in your classroom? Share your experiences with us using the question box, the same place that you shared where you joined from. Just type it in that box as well. So it looks like verbal critique, I can't talk today, verbal critique has come in. So maybe provide that verbal feedback. One-on-one coaching sessions multiple times with each class, yes. Verbal and written feedback works for you. Verbally during skill acquisition, Exactly. Makes me think about, I started playing pickleball a couple months ago, and the coaches always try to provide that timely feedback. So if you have a weird hit, they try to provide that feedback right then so you can correct it. We do the same thing in education. Written in the grade book, remote video, in-person, frequent Q&A sessions, showing work and helping them through construction related to math. Absolutely. So all great ways that provide that timely feedback. Now you probably know what my next question is going to be. How do you provide that consistent and ongoing feedback with your students? What does that look like? So I saw someone in there posted, multiple times in the class, discussion boards. Yes, discussion boards are great for that, like ongoing. Someone else said at the end of a 2-hour class, I asked students to write on their timesheets what they liked about the class, what they didn't quite understand, and what we need to go over again. Absolutely, that's like a great feedback for you as an instructor, getting a little formative assessment in there. Post grades every week right after assignments are due. So nice, so students can keep up with their grades, know where they stand. Place in each module in the LMS, provide that consistent, ongoing feedback. Check-ins, one-on-one, group or peer discussions, yes. Try to correct tests as they are passed in while other students are taking it. Yes, bravo to you. That was always so hard for me to do. But yes, providing as timely and consistent and ongoing feedback as possible. These are all great examples. So I hope that you're seeing some things come in and you're thinking like, hey, I do that too. That's awesome, because that means you're already doing it. And maybe you're seeing some new ideas and thinking, oh, maybe I want to try that. Exactly. Also thinking about the consistent and ongoing. We have some coming in with emails to students who are struggling. Absolutely. Like a poll after every chapter. Absolutely. So hopefully we can learn from each other and try things that are working for others in our classroom to just enrich our learning environments and help each other as we continue this journey on being an educator, an instructor. Thank you so much for sharing, as always. It makes it so much more enjoyable. So with that, we're going to keep going back. Except let me get out of this one. There we go. All right. So now we're going to return to our Padlet once again. And we're going to complete that last column. So I know this is just a snippet of like a 90 to like 180 minute PD session. So you're just getting a snippet of it. But let's return to our 3-2-1 Padlet. And let's fill out that last column. So we're going to fill out one way that you can start to incorporate feedback into your classroom. So we kind of started with like why you should use it, why someone might not use it, but what's one specific way you want to incorporate feedback into your classroom? It can come from research, it can come from the question box, learning from your peers. No wrong answer. The link is in the chat. The QR code's on the screen. I'm going to scan it, click on the QR code, and let's take it to our Padlet one last time to wrap it up there. So once again, Padlet, I'm using the free Padlet. Make sure you check with your IT department. So one way that you're going to incorporate feedback into your classroom: visual as literacy, some peer-to-peer. Students feel pressured by the instructor feedback initially. Absolutely. Like I always think to myself, like it's so much easier for my students to talk amongst themselves before they talk to the whole group. Same thing with feedback, like peer-to-peer feedback before the instructor. Great idea. Use surveys like this one. Absolutely. Great anonymous way to provide feedback through data integration. Ooh, I would love to hear more about that, but yes, absolutely. Provide feedback verbally through communication groups. Yes, peer review. Being consistent about providing timely feedback. Absolutely. Remote learning, video recording, in-person, immediate. Yes. I correct incorrect responses by students and show how to correct. Absolutely. Google Forms. Every time I hear y'all talk about peer-to-peer or using like Google Forms, I had a colleague of mine who created a rubric. So after a project, her students would rank themselves and then have a peer kind of go through the rubric and rank them on the rubric before they turned it in to her as the instructor. And it was always interesting that she said that the students were always harder on themselves and their peers were harder on them than she was. So that's kind of interesting when it comes to feedback. Feedback orally, try to use more technology and polls, right? So like that Mentimeter poll at the very beginning was a great way to provide feedback. Even this Padlet provides feedback for all of us. Poll Everywhere provided feedback for all of us. Surveys, forms, Zoom polls, yes, those are fun. Student conferences, great way to have feedback, a lot more open-ended opportunities there. Timely with the feedback. Use assessment sheets for students for lessons, yes, and recorded feedback. Yes, so y'all are all like right on the right track. I love your thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope you were able to learn from your peers as well today. So with that, I'm going to jump back over to our slide deck. And y'all know, if you've been here before, I love to kind of wrap it up with a summary to really just review where we come in these 30 minutes together. So we started out defining feedback. We just used a very generic kind of collective definition of feedback with some of those key terms that we picked up on, with like constructive comments, instruction, etc. Then we looked at a little bit of like what research said about the 7 essentials of feedback, and that's about to be linked in the chat for you as well. We also pulled John Hattie's research on making learning visible, dealing with his like 226 educational influences and their impact on student achievement. Knowing that the average effect size is 0.4, but by providing this feedback that follows these 7 essentials, it can have an impact of up to 0.7, so almost double that average effect size. We use tools like Padlet, Mentimeter, and Everywhere to get your feedback to the questions, as well as share with others. So Chalk Talk was the first activity or instructional strategy that we used with your definition. We also used a modified 3-2-1, where you wrote 3 reasons you should use feedback, 2 why someone might not, and then 1 thing that you want to try in your classroom with feedback. We also pulled some research from ASCD to kind of back up what we're doing and verify what we're doing. So as you have your questions, I would love for you to type any questions that you have into that chat box right now. And as you do that, and we're preparing to wrap up our last slide, I'm going to drop some links in the chat that have to do with the PD for GW, as we call ourselves at Goodheart-Willcox, the K-20 Learn site, which is the resources, and the ASCD article on the effective feedback. So those should be in the chat. I'm going to move my slide one more, and I would love to see what questions you have for us in the question box today. So the one question came in: when do you offer the longer PD? So we do that based on a organization or a district or a school or a department request. On that g-w.com/PD website, you can request more information, and we'd be happy to chat with you about that. You can also send me an email. My email's on the screen, mgreen@g-w.com. Be happy to answer questions. May we have the PowerPoint slides? So awesome. This session is being recorded. So 1 to 2 days from today, you should receive a link that has the recording to this session. And if you want the PowerPoint slides and specifically for this shorter session, if you wouldn't mind sending me an email, I will just send them right to you. Not a problem. Next question: how do I submit this PD to my supervisor? So not only do you get the recording in 1 to 2 days, but you get a certificate, and that certificate has the title of this session called Improve Feedback, Provide Improve Instruction Through Feedback, and it has a 30-minute webinar description on there. So hopefully that certificate will work for you. Great question. And with that, I see that I think we have like 2 minutes left. So any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. If you don't want to type them in the chat box, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to answer them one-on-one. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, as soon as I end this webinar, a evaluation will pop up, and we would love your feedback and any of the comments that you have for us here at GW. So with that, I'm going to give you back, I guess, 1 minute of your day. Thanks for joining us. Have an awesome week, and then we will see you soon.